Right. Welcome, everybody, to our Tuesday, August 19th, 2025 City Council meeting. I apologize for the couple-minute delay. Totally my fault. We are obviously live in chambers, and we are broadcasting by Zoom as well as usual. So we will go ahead and get started with the invocation. I'll go ahead and lead that, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join me. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together here today. Please lead us in some very constructive conversations. Please keep on our hearts what is best for the community, what is best for all of our residents, and that we keep our dialogue respectful. We thank you for all you've done for our community. Thank the first responders. They've been very busy lately. And we'd like to say a special moment of silence for our Spokane County deputy who was killed in the line of duty. Lord, please continue to watch over our first responders as they put their lives on the line for us every day. We thank each and every one of them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call. Councilmember Kurtz. Present. Councilmember Ball. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
Okay, we have Councilmember Dunn is out for family. I'm not sure. I know Councilmember Van Orman will not be joining us. Do we have a motion to excuse?
Motion to excuse council members Dunn and Van Orman. Second.
Second from Councilmember Spencer. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. All right, we're up to agenda approval.
Mayor, one proposed change on my end is an amendment to move item 10D into general business.
Okay, we have a second to move item 10D under general business. That would be 11F.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Spencer. Any discussion, questions? Not hearing any. All those in favor of moving item 10D to 11F, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Any other proposed changes to the agenda tonight? Okay.
Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. We have a second by Councilmember Kurtz. All in favor of approving the amendment as a oh Lord, am I struggling tonight? The agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Okay, we're up to citizen comments tonight. As usual, we have two spots for general citizen comments. For those of you in person, we have white half sheets tonight on the table by the door. If you want to fill one of those out and get it to Rochelle at the end of the table. And for those online, if you're going to have a citizen comment, please send a note to our meeting host in the chat feature, and we will get to you after we have our in-person comments. 3-minute time limit. This is a true comment period. There's no back and forth with the council. If we need to follow up with you, we will do so from the staff level. So do we have any in-person citizen comments? Not seeing any. Do we have any online? No way. Okay, just remember, we'll have another chance at the end of the session, and we do have 2 resolutions. There will be time for any public comments on those specific resolutions at that time as well. And we will go ahead and move on to announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. And we don't have any. Weren't we supposed to have? It's the next meeting. Yeah. Well, anyway, there's nobody here. So. All right. Reports and inquiries, city council reports. Anybody have any reports to give? Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make reference to last Thursday, we had the event at the library, and I think that we had a fairly good turnout. That was there. I did see some faces that I've never seen before, but there was quite a few that was there. I do want to point out the misfortunate situation that happened where a particular citizen became very, very upset and 3 different times disrupted the gathering to make the individual's point. And as unfortunate that is, that fortunately we had a police officer there to make sure that it didn't escalate out of control. Now, the sad thing, I think, is this. People can get so emotional about what goes on with the city, what goes on with their own personal situation and stuff. There's a time and place for all of that. And I'm disappointed to see that the city has gotten to the point that it's one thing to have citizens come here and express their concern, which they have a right, and I support that. But there's a time and place beyond that, and it's not in an environment such as that. Now, the thing I'm most disappointed about is that the city has gotten to the point that now we have to have police escort, in essence, there. I understand that the mayor requested this, and I think it was wise for the mayor to do that, we need to nip this in the bud. What we're trying to do, I think all of us, is achieve something, but we're working on now. And I think when we get divided, we're never going to accomplish anything. So I just wanted to bring out that that was fortunate. I think it did put a damper on that was there for the individuals that were there and did see that. So I hope it doesn't happen in the future.
I will wait till my turn to address that. Go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
I went to the Ridgeline Band trailer unveiling, which was super cool. It was nice to see all the students there. They had a barbecue for everybody that joined. But it was really fun to actually see the trailer in person after we talked about it, to see our names on the back of the trailer. I was surprised by that. That was kind of cool. Your name, well, I don't think we're there. But
Whoever was on the
whoever was
council when
on the
that was
council
approved.
at the time was on there. So it was fun to be there with just all the students and the excitement about, and then we got to watch the band practice. It was pretty cool. So
How big is it? Like a,
it's a semi-trailer.
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other council reports? All right, not hearing any, mayor's reports. Again, summers are pretty quiet when it comes to board position meetings. I did volunteer for the Chamber of Commerce Golf Tournament a couple Thursdays ago. That's always a great time to interact with our local businesses. This year they had so many people sign up. They actually had 2 tee times, one about 8 o'clock and one, I think, 1 o'clock. So it was a full day, but very, very well attended. I also went to the Ridgeline trailer unveiling. I was talking to some of the board members who were involved with getting all of that pulled together. And with the exception of the wrap around the trailer, they were able to source everything pretty much locally. And they've got a volunteer that drives the semi part of the trailer to pull it around. So a great event. And kudos to those kids who came and spoke 3 or 4 years ago now, 2021, I think it was, so 4 years ago, asking for the council for help. They really only got to enjoy that trailer partially. They got to enjoy it part of last year, but it wasn't fully finished out. But they knew that was a good thing going forward. And in talking to some of those parents who were involved, it was a 5 to 10 year wish that they had. And thank you to the council members at the time for bringing this up and awarding the money to the Ridgeline Band boosters to do the trail. And it looks fantastic. And it is, the next day I was at U High for something, for Valley Theater, and I saw their trailer, and Ridgeline's much better. Gotta say that. Today I worked with Holly Steinglin, who is our local Veterans Program Director for the 988 Suicide Prevention Program. She had me do about a 45-second suicide awareness video that they're going to be putting out. They're having a bunch of people do that. Suicide Awareness Month is next month. We should have a proclamation coming for that. And just a couple things coming up. The Sketch Built ribbon cutting is tomorrow. And think about that. It's in the Portal building. I don't know a whole lot about them. And then the chamber board meeting is a week from Wednesday. And to Councilmember Kennedy's point, we all do need to remember that there are 2 sides to every situation. It's my understanding that that situation was instigated by the other party, not the one that is being, not the person who is being noted as being the instigator. So there are 2 sides to every story. We did have an officer there who helped calm things down. I'm glad I wasn't there. I I will leave it at that, but I do encourage all of our council members to be very aware of their actions in our meetings and in our town halls, and that they respect other people's boundaries. So I will go on and move to the city administrator report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and members in the audience, whether they be here in person or online. We have a few events to remind everyone about. The first one is actually tomorrow night, August the 20th, out at Pavilion Park at 5 p.m. It's the annual rendition of Shakespeare in the Park, and this year it's As You Like It. So a nice opportunity midweek to get out and see a show in the park. I'll remind you that a week from tomorrow, August 27th, is the first day of school for both Central Valley and East Valley school districts. And so on that day, traffic patterns will change. And so just reminding everybody to be aware that that will be happening. And so we will have, for the next 9 months or so, our what I would consider to be our normal school time traffic patterns. Beyond that, Saturday, August the 30th is the Lud Kramer Memorial Concert, also at Pavilion Park. The concert itself starts at 6 p.m., but we have an opening act this year that starts at 4:30 p.m. So it's not the symphony itself, but it's a piece of that show. And so if you're interested in either of those things, come on out and join us at Pavilion Park at 4:30 on Saturday the 30th. And then finally, Monday, September the 1st is the Labor Day holiday. And so City Hall and the library will be closed in observance of Labor Day. And just as a reminder, the city council meeting on Tuesday, September 2nd is on a week where we have a Monday holiday. So just keep that in mind. Before we move on to the other items on my report, are there any questions about those events?
What did you say the first day of school was, the 27th?
This is the 27th of August.
Okay.
That is a week from tomorrow.
Okay. I think I'm the only one here that doesn't have little kids in school, maybe. Oh, no, okay.
Neither does Mike.
Oh, Mike, yeah, you don't either.
All right, so we are at our second meeting of the month, and you have received the departmental reports. And so now is an opportunity to ask any of the department heads questions about any of the information that you see on those reports or anything else that you may want to ask.
Any questions? We do have staff online if there are questions. All right.
Doesn't look like there are any.
Nope.
All right. So the last item I've got is titled Library Community Center Project, but it's really not specifically about that, although in the context of that project is where we kind of find ourselves in a discussion later tonight. And so in advance of that, I just wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to kind of set some of the expectations for myself and the staff going into that workshop. And so the role of the city council is to set vision for the city, establish policy through lawmaking, budget oversight, contract authorization, and other things. On the other hand, the city administrator, my role, or anyone in this seat's role, and by extension, the city staff, is to execute that vision by implementing those policies, developing budgets, delivering projects, facilitating boards and commissions, and then managing day-to-day operations. And so it's not really about personal agendas. It's about public service excellence and professional stewardship. I think we all understand that. And good city management is grounded in accountability, trust, and clarity. And so when the vision is clear, we have the opportunity to execute with focus and precision. And when all of the roles are understood, those two that I just mentioned primarily, the whole system functions in harmony for the benefit of the entire community. And so when we get to the workshop to discuss the city's role in communications policies regarding the ballot measure, I'm going to be asking for clarity and unambiguous direction so that I can ensure that the staff understands the policy. So I look forward to that discussion, and we'll be seeking those two things. And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have the Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. I don't see anybody here. Do we have anybody from the Sewer and Water District online that needs to be promoted? Any chance Bill Genoway's on the attendee list? No, okay, all right. If we hear from him partway through the meeting, we will add him back. Next up, we have Parks and Arts Commission. Nancy, welcome. You guys have been busy.
Yes, we have. I think this is the earliest I've ever been up here. Exciting. It's nice outside, right?
Don't jinx us.
I'm Nancy Hill and I'm Chair of the Parks and Arts Commission, and we have been busy. Big part of that is working on the Parks Plan public engagement. And that's been both at the high level of the overall Parks Plan and being a participant in that, and then drilling down at a few events to our Pavilion Park Playground Replacement Project. And they've both been really exciting. I had the opportunity to be in the farmer's market booth and also at Barefoot. And at Barefoot, we really focused on the playground replacement because we're right there. And, you know, there was shocking amount of people that want merry-go-rounds. I didn't even know those were a thing anymore, but apparently they do have safe merry-go-rounds. So we're looking at a lot of ideas and bringing what the people want to the park. So down the line, I think you're going to see some information on that and maybe some adults to do a few extra things. So we're looking forward to keeping that moving. And then when I was in the farmer's market booth, I got to hear about what kind of public art people might want, whether it's a sculpture or a mural or something nature related. And so it was really interesting. And people were very thoughtful when they had their little balls to put in the jars or a little sticker to put on something. They were very thoughtful, and there was some discussion in families about it. So I'm really thinking that we got some good input, and that'll turn out really good. So next slide. Okay, our 2025 projects. Our signal box wraps. I'm excited about those, and we should get those done this year. We've made a decision, not on the specific art, but at Legacy and Apple Way. So the original entrance to Legacy. We have the boxes there, and we've decided to go with a patriotic theme because the hometown hero banners go right by there. And it seems like it would be a good fit. So we're working on picking that art now. And then on the Kramer Parkway, Appleway intersection, we're going with a nature theme because you see in the picture, that's part of the sculpture that's going to be going in there. So we don't want to do anything that would detract from the sculpture. We want to complement it. That is the fused glass art there. In the picture, that's our Liberty Lake Together art, our carryover from 2024. They're working on the framework that holds that, and then we'll be working on getting an engineered base, and we're still hoping for an install this year. It's getting really close. Yes.
Did you mean Country Vista? Because you said Appleway.
Oh, Country Vista, you're
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong road.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, where do they connect?
No. No, you are, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appleway
Thank you.
and Kramer Parkway and Appleway at the Legacy.
Country
Country
Vista.
Vista.
Yeah, I just.
20 years and I still forget where they changed.
Well,
to
doesn't
campus,
matter.
So
Can't go
that
everywhere.
road between Liberty Lake and the valley, that's not 90. There you go.
Thank you for the clarification.
Right.
Don't mind me, I just go off. Orchard Park, we've just completed the wrapping of the electrical box, which is at the Never Forget Garden under the flagpole. We had those ugly wires, and we had that moved into a box, and then we realized the box was ugly. And so now we've wrapped the box. So that project is pretty much winding down. Then we have our 2025 Liberty Lake Together art project, and that's going to be our first ever goat sculpture, which was a great idea that came out of our workshop with the Parks and Arts Commission. I actually had the pleasure of meeting with the artist whom we selected. They're working on kind of a mock-up of what it's going to be, but where the arch is at Town Square, as you enter the farmer's market area, that's where you'll see the sculptures. There'll be two goats, one kind of climbing up the column to reach a vine, and then one on the other column, like sitting, standing, or doing something. But he's the artist is the co-founder of Rivers Wish Animal Sanctuary. So they have a deep connection to animals, and we have asked for it to be kid-friendly, and his wife is an elementary teacher. So for their collab, I think it's going to be a fantastic piece. And they're even trying to add a sound component to it. because his neighbor's a sound engineer, might donate his time. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Where maybe when you touch it or pat it or push a button, you'll maybe hear a little bleating sound. Anyway, it's super exciting. He's going to do a great job. It's going to be steel. He'll do the foundry work. It will be a carryover project to next year. And you'll see that carried over in the budget. We'll probably spend some money this year because there'll be some supplies, but that's going to be a super exciting project. And next slide. This project just kind of fell in our laps this year. From Parks staff, there was some concern about the boulders at the water feature at Orchard Park, the splash pad, because kids are running around and super excited and the color of the boulders blends kind of in with the color of the concrete and kids were tripping on them. So we have engaged with an artist and using some of our general funding for this and our beautification, we're going to have like little frogs or little animals or something. The boulders will become painted. They will be in some kind of theme. We're working with them on how that's going to work. In my head, I think there's got to be at least a frog because there's water, right? But it will solve a safety issue because it'll make the boulders pop out and it'll be a really fun thing. And there's a lot of boulders in that playground. So who knows, you know, that is a project that could expand over the years, but we're going to start with the ones in the area where it's been a tripping hazard. So we're super excited about that project and that should get done this year. She wants to do the work in the fall when it's not so hot for painting. And yeah, it'll be super exciting. We'll be ready for next season with all kinds of fun critters over there. Next slide. So as mentioned, we just finished a couple or three meetings hammering out our 26 to 28 budget and strategic plan. We've given that to Jen Camp and I'm sure she'll include it in the council book and it'll be presented and discussed. And of course, we're always happy to answer any questions about that as you go through the process. We also have approved a fee schedule that was prepared by Gen Camp staff for different fields and rentals of the pavilions. And that's been looked at and approved by the commission and that will come forward to you folks. And then we're doing something a little different. We're going to be entering into a consultant agreement with Spokane Arts and Karen Mobley. One thing we've had trouble with, and that's one of the reasons we've had carryover projects, is finding the artists. You know, we're advertising our social media. We've come across some email groups, but Spokane Arts has this huge tentacle of artists that we can use and go out to. And we're super excited because we're hoping, and you'll see it in our budget, there's going to be public art in the new City Hall building because people will be coming in there and we want to make it interesting. So we're looking at some kind of a smaller piece of arts that complements the outside. So you can enjoy that. And then something else in the lobby when you come in. So we hope to be working in hand with staff and the architect and this consultant so we can get ideas and get everything together because this is going to be timed because of the building construction and get everything done. So we're excited. You'll see that agreement come forward to you. We think it's going to be really beneficial for getting the word out and helping us to keep our projects going and finding a pool of artists in which to choose from. So that's something new. And as an ad, I understand it's the 25th anniversary of Liberty Lake next year, and there's going to be something. So one thing you'll see in our budget is a 25th anniversary art piece that we hope that could be unveiled whenever the celebration is, which I think August, was it, Mark?
Yes, it's currently slated for August.
Slated for August.
Yeah.
So hopefully we might have to use the consultant with it a little bit on that. We're still have some brainstorming but we're thinking that would be kind of cool as part of the 25-year celebration. So.
And to clarify, we're talking about August of 2026, just to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're almost out of this August. I never could pull that off. All right, next slide. Mark went over the event, so I won't continue to do that, but we do have a couple of recreation opportunities. I noticed there's a poster for the rafting thing, and there's some indoor climbing stuff and fitness with healthy cooking classes. So we're doing some collaboration with some groups that can provide more opportunities for the city, and they can register through the city. So look for that even more next year as we try to expand our programming. And next slide, which is just questions. And someone's at my front door. Okay. Ring. Anything? Yes.
On this Inclusa, I was reading about them, of course, in the packet and kind of Googled them too. Are they new or is it?
They're
something-
fairly new. I think that the cooking thing and the fitness, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think they went into the Safeway shopping area there.
Yeah.
So I think they're new. I haven't been over there to see
Well,
it.
it's not done. I could tell they were.
Yeah.
working on it, but they said, it said $75 for this 4-class, whatever. Is that per week? Is it like, or is it for the whole class, like over a month?
I think it's for the whole class, but I would have to, maybe if Jen's on, but Mikhail, that's kind of his thing that he
Okay.
brought forward. So I would not be comfortable
Okay,
confirming the details, but I think it's kind of cool and it's right here in Liberty Lake.
right.
They've actually been around for a little bit. Their main office is in the Portal Building. And she's actually come and spoken here to us before. So they were looking for some additional room to have some classes. She didn't have enough room in the Portal where her office is.
Do you know about their fee structure or?
No.
Okay, because I thought if it was $75 a week, that's not really a great deal for citizens.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Is the food really good though?
Well, they only had the one cooking class,
Yeah.
but they had several
Yeah.
different fitness, they had a variety.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, you know.
Well, we can certainly get clarification with you and send
Yeah,
you
I
an
think
email.
We need it, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for the question.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, well, once again, we're all happy to be on the Parks and Arts Commission. We have a great group. We're looking for our student commissioner now. We haven't got an application of anyone yet that lives in the city limits. We had one that didn't. And that's something maybe we want to discuss as we go forward, because we generally pull from Ridgeline High School because we have a relationship with the art teacher there. And, you know, only a certain percentage of kids at Ridgeline are living in the city, so.
Yeah, so that's something we might want to bring up because it would need to change to the ordinance to just change that to Liberty Lake resident or a student at one of the Liberty Lake schools. So we may bring that, we'll have Parks and Arts go through it and bring forward a suggestion.
Yeah, because I think it's important to have that student input and that connection to the high school. It's been really good.
Agreed.
All right, well, thank you,
Great.
folks.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to our workshop discussions. First up is the review of the proposed governance manual. Mark, I think we're starting with you.
Yeah, so I'll kick this off, and this will likely be a joint effort, and then a wider council discussion. Although we're not planning necessarily to review specifically any sections of the governance manual tonight. Although that's up to council if they want to delve in and ask questions or actually do some review. And so just to kind of level set for those who may be new to the conversation, back in November of 2024, there was a committee established to look into what are called the council rules of procedure. And that committee was made up, I believe, its original makeup is what it's currently made up of, which are council members Kurtz, Kennedy, and Spencer. And they began meeting to look at opportunities to improve and update the rules of procedure. And so now we're referring to that as the governance manual, and that's the draft copy that you have both in front of you and has been distributed electronically before tonight. And I don't want to speak for the committee, but in looking at the rules, the old rules of procedure, or the existing rules of procedure, the proposed governance manual, and some of the conversation that was happening as the committee was meeting, really the purpose and intent is establishing clear roles and responsibilities, promoting consistency, stability, strengthening transparency, supporting legal compliance, and then enhancing just the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the governing process. And so if you look at it through those lenses, that's really what the goal is, to bring the existing rules of procedure up to kind of current standards and add maybe some missing items into it that were not addressed in the current rules of procedure. And so from my perspective, And I guess before we get there, I'd like to invite any of the committee members to make any comments about anything that I've said that is off base, or if you would like to add anything to the process of getting from beginning to here, or any other thoughts. Okay, so from my perspective, the chapters that contain things that are new or different enough that they probably need some discussion by the whole council. And again, this is my perspective. Those things constitute chapter 3, communications, chapter 4, interaction with the city staff and officials, chapter 5, city council meetings, chapter 9, the 3-touch rule, chapter 17, legislative priorities and taxes, and chapter 21, city advisory boards and commissions. Now, it's my understanding that the committee has gone through this document, and there are comments that you see in the margins of each page, if there are any. And so the committee has gone through, and I believe with respect to the comments, are in a position to recommend some of these sections for immediate adoption. Of course, the council it's the council's prerogative to discuss any and all of them. But I think from a timeline perspective, one of the goals would be trying to bite off pieces that are, like I mentioned, from my perspective, these chapters that are new or significant changes from the current, so that we can focus on those and work through this in a fairly judicious process. And so from a timeline perspective, questions that the council should consider, and I don't know that I have any specific recommendations. If you want me to make some, I will be happy to do that. Is adoption by the end of 2025 feasible or preferred? I think it is feasible. Is it preferred? That's a question I think the council needs to maybe answer. Does the full council wish to review and deliberate on the entire manual, or do we want to focus attention on some of those things that are new and different? And then the last question to consider is that, knowing that new council members will be seated in January, should they be offered an opportunity to provide input, considering that the changes will directly impact the council going forward. And so with that, I would turn the floor over to the council to talk about any of those items that I've introduced, or to talk about specifically the information that is contained in the draft of the proposed governance manual.
Councilmember Kurtz.
So I think when we get to the point where we actually want to go through things, I'm hoping that when we do that, that it's at a higher level than the really in the weeds, word by word, because that is what Mike and Jed and I did for Fridays for a really long time, for several months actually. And so I think there are some situations where we might get into the weeds with a may versus a must versus a shall versus a should, those type of things. But I'm hoping that there's some trust of the committee that we really worked through a lot of that. We really thought about what should be in here and what shouldn't. In the margins, you'll notice too that they'll often say, for some of the same ones that Mark just mentioned, say for full council discussion, because the three of us didn't all agree, which is normal and totally fine. And then Mark did highlight some of the same ones that I did, as far as things that were new, things that we want you guys to think about. I think this is different than what we've done. And in the same sentence, it is also the same as what we've done. We just wrote it down, or made it a little bit longer or more clear. I think the good thing about this is that Mayor Pro Tem had wanted more transparency. And this is one of those ways that we can do that for ourselves, and then also for the public, and also for other commission members and boards too. So Mark mentioned some of the same ones that I had, as far as ones to look at. Chapter 18 was one that I also highlighted, and chapter 13. But the rest of them were the same ones that Mark had put up there as well. So I think my perspective is, if you have made it through all the way, good job. If you haven't, read it and take some time, think about it and read it again, because there is a lot in there. And then I don't know how to, address, I think sometimes you need kind of what the intent was, and that's what, Councilmember Kennedy and Councilmember Spencer and I spent some time with in our meetings was, okay, I read what this says, but what does it mean? And so we really tried to work through that and make sure that the language is clear. So I'm not sure how to get through those kind of discussions eventually with, a public meeting and everything too, wanting to make sure that we're on the same page. But Mark had asked me to come up with a couple of the places where I thought we wanted to highlight that are changes. And then also the social media and ethics policy is still being done. And there were a couple of things that we had put in that may actually fit better in here. So that's still a little bit of a work in progress as well. So.
Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Ball.
Thank you, Mayor. So a few things, I'll just give some kind of broad impressions of this. I actually have read through the whole thing, and I highlighted a few areas. As someone who is really, really committed to making sure that we have be careful in how I say this. We have a separation of powers. We have a checks and balances system. The first thing I thought when I just read through it, didn't make any changes, is that this really, there are some parts of it that I feel like really neuters the city council and what the city council can do or what the city council currently does. And I can get more into the specifics of that in a little while. The second thing I thought was kind of funny, but telling. After I read through it, I copied and pasted it into ChatGPT because I wanted to see what AI would make of this booklet. And AI said it was too long for it to read. Now, if that's AI telling us it's too long to read, when AI can read thousands and thousands of pages within a split second, I feel like maybe we should be kind of paring back a little bit what we are expecting not only current and future council members to read, but also the community to read as well, because the community is going to hopefully hold us to these things that are in here. There are several spots that I had highlighted throughout that do, and I think Mark and Councilmember Kurtz pointed this out, do have a pretty significant change or contradict current city policy. And maybe that's the intent, but I do think we have to make sure that we go through it all so that everyone understands what exactly is being changed. Things as simple as when someone makes a motion, or when there is a call to a calling of the question, or just little things like that, where it does tweak how this council operates. So I think it's important to make sure that everyone knows that. And then I'm sure these were just overlooked, but there are certain things in here that I think, because we copied and pasted some of this from other cities, where it talks about our biennial budget, or it talks about something that is not necessarily specific to our city, but I think is just a matter of the fact that, we pulled some of this language from some of the other cities in the state as well. I think there was one mention to Gig Harbor. There was another one to Bothell. And so, obviously we'll want to go through all of that and make sure that we are fixing any of those errors before everyone gives the final sign off for it. So those aren't just my initial thoughts.
Okay, Councilmember Ball.
Well, yeah, I will admit I've only gotten through half of this, but I'm reading it page by page by page. But one thing that struck me is on 12, and it's all page 12, and it's also referenced on 16, is a reference to, on 12, it's called a disaster preparedness plan. And on 16, it's called, something different, but anyway, maybe it's not on 16 after all. But the bottom line is we really don't have a disaster preparedness plan. And I mentioned this before because it concerns me with, with regard to wildfire. Yes, we are included in the county document and then that other document you, Mark, you referred me to, but it never specifically says if you live in Liberty Lake and it is a, act of God, force majeure, bad, something really bad is going on, what do we do? Other than just depend on nobody, which is what the mayor of Medical Lake said at the state conference, when they had their big fire. She said, nobody's coming, and that's scary. So I have told Cody, our new guy that arranges,
It's our purchasing.
right, that I want to go to the thing on October 2nd in Wenatchee, which is about this very topic, disaster preparedness or hazard mitigation, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we don't have a disaster preparedness plan, in my opinion. So when it refers to one here, I was kind of like, no, I don't know about that. So that was one thing.
So just real quick, if I may, I don't know if we know anybody's really decided, are we going through individual things now, or are we setting a special meeting, or are we setting a workshop every meeting to go through certain parts? Nobody's really, because Mayor Pro Tem, gave a couple high level things, but I don't know if we're prepared to get into specifics.
It's a long document. I get
Well,
it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But so I think the council needs to decide how to tackle this elephant and what do the bites look like. Councilmember Kennedy.
If I can point out, is that one of the things that came up among the three of us quite often was to try to put the effort into this, not just what the three of us want or believe, is that what the council would have questions and stuff. So just don't take it as the fact that three of us looked at this, put it together and say, oh, this is fine, let's just move on. That would be a waste of time. I would hope that we wouldn't get into, as Councilman Kurtz said, get into a lot of the thee and them and us and that type of stuff, because when that did come up, we spent a lot of time with the attorney and also Mark to see legally how that does come into play. My recommendation would be is that take a period of time, maybe over a period of meetings, and have a short time where we can go over specifics of whatever the council wants to discuss. Because some of these may have a more of an interest to more of us than not, where some of it is, it's like watching a Chevy rust.
Well, that's pretty fast. No.
If anything kept the three of us going, would be a time that we would go, what the hell was that? So
Is that like watching paint dry?
that,
Yeah.
Hold on, before we get back to you, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Spencer, did you have anything to add before you go back around?
Yeah, I think that was one of my concerns, is just how are we going to tackle this as a full council? Because I know as we went through it, there were quite a few times where we're like, you know what, we're not even going to try and settle this amongst the three of us. Let's just tee that up for the council. So I'm not sure the best way to do that, other than perhaps we go through a section of chapters, per meeting or whatever, and address those high level things and bring any other additional things that anybody has read through and said, oh, I have a concern about that. Rather than going line by line. I think that, we've already kind of done that, but that would be kind of my recommendation to tackle this. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, so I think Mayor Pro Tem was next. So back, okay, go back to Councilmember.
I think from my perspective, I think it would be good to just have some special meeting time to just dive into this for, that's what we're going to talk about for 2 hours, whatever our threshold is to dive into this topic coming up. And then I think, to Mark's point, I think one of the questions is what's our end timeline? When are we trying to do this by? And I don't know that I have an opinion on when we should try to do that by. And I also know we have the budget coming up and all of those things too. So I don't want to burn out staff coming to meetings while we're talking about some pretty dry things. But we also have other business to do too. So my suggestion would be that we have focused time to do this versus jamming it into city business.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree, you know, take those chapters that are new that you guys were kind of undecided on, tackle those first, you know, take the big stuff first. And we, you know, and because we've got a ton of staff hanging out listening to this that don't necessarily have to be there for this manual. So maybe if we can come up with, you know, a day, you know, start with, like you said, maybe a 2-hour meeting, bring in some pizza or whatever, and we have more casual discussion atmosphere than the formal, you know, formal setting like this, so we can probably get through it a bit faster. That's just my thoughts. Mayor Pro Tem.
I would concur with that. My only hesitation is that I have found things in almost every chapter, I think, where I feel like we need to at least call it to everyone's attention. And we don't necessarily need to change or have a big argument about it or anything like that. But I do think there are little things that, again, it's not going to impact me. It's not going to impact Councilmember Spencer or Councilmember Kennedy, but there are little things that are going to change the way this council operates. So for that purpose, we should have that discussion.
Yeah.
Now, you know, on the one hand, I also think we can get it done by the end of the year. On the other hand, because this changes the way the council operates, in some ways, I do wonder whether we should let the next council members that are coming on board have a say in that process, because they're the ones who are going to be subject to it. So I just wanted to throw that out there as something to consider.
Councilmember Kennedy.
I would certainly hope that we could look at this with the idea that we could finalize this by the end of the year. For the simple reason is a lot of time and effort was put into this, a lot of time and effort. And I could see we could also get into that same rut again of putting a lot of time and effort to do that, and then to wait for the new council members to come in and start this process again. It's not finished, it's not finalized, there's no period at the end of the sentence. So I would say we could finalize something by the end of December. And what it allows is that for this next year, council to look at within 6 months to review it again. I think the disadvantage with the new council members coming in, especially if we have individuals who've never been involved, never volunteered, never been involved in any committee whatsoever, to suddenly say, oh, by the way, give us your opinion on this.
That's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's overwhelming to us who've been around, you know, to try to follow all of that. So I think what it do is it slow the process down and really put the new members at a disadvantage.
All right, do we want, so, oh, go ahead, Councilmember.
Well, yeah, I tend to agree with that, you know, I mean, it's, as the newest member of council, it's overwhelming enough when you're new, and then to say, oh, here, we never finished this, how about it? You know, I just think that's not fair to them. So I agree with the idea of maybe, but would it be special meetings?
I
with
would,
Pizza.
I
or
would
whatever,
think,
to
I would think,
sit on the floor and, you know.
kumbaya. No.
Yeah.
No.
right.
Just a little bit more informal setting, maybe do it at the library or something, but yeah, maybe if we get, you know, throw some dates out, we know school's starting, and so it wouldn't be until after Labor Day would be my assumption. And
So just
start with that.
as kind of a framing, once we get into late October, we're pretty much tied up through the end of the year with budget-related special meetings. Now, not all of those that are currently on the calendar may end up being necessary, but they're currently allocated. So we really have a short window. We have essentially September. We have the rest of August, September, and part of October.
And at that point, budget takes precedence, obviously. All right, well, let's get together and let's throw some dates out and let people respond, and start from there. If that's okay with everybody?
So you'd send out one of those.
Doodle polls.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Okay. So nothing else on that topic. We will switch over to our charging for public records discussion. Kyle, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, so as you recall, a little over a month ago, we brought some concerns forward regarding some specific records that were monopolizing staff time, more notably the PD. Before I get too far along, Lee, can you pull up our slides? And so the first part of our presentation will be a little bit of a refresher. I have handouts for everyone to kind of follow along as well. But we were able to obviously investigate further and bring back some recommendations, bring back some alternatives to seek council guidance on a path forward for a potential resolution sometime this fall. So next slide, please, Lee. So we all saw this one. This is our program profile that we talked about. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this. I guess diving deeper into what we're seeing here. So what we have for the full-time equivalents and our total cost is what we have budgeted for. And so I think if our PD admin staff were here, DC Morgan can attest to this. I would assume we're spending likely a lot more than what you see here based on the volume of body-worn camera requests coming into the PD this year. And so this is what we anticipated to spend. I would say, and I'd be very curious to bring this back in the first quarter of 2026 to give you actuals, because I bet it's probably a little bit closer to 250,000 and might even exceed that based on the volume that they're still seeing. So I just wanted to highlight that just as kind of a point of clarification on what we're seeing on these. Next slide, please, Lee. So we saw these again. This is just a rehash of the common public records that the city receives. Obviously, our main focus on the heels of our discussion last month would be our personal information, purchasing information, and body-worn cameras. The rest of these are, more or less relatively easy to provide. The correspondence can be cumbersome and lengthy, but that's one that is a common request that we don't have any issue with responding to on a staff side for now. So next slide, please. So 3 options are identified in the RCW for actually charging for public records. Really, the only thing, if you recall, that we charge for is physical copies. And so I'll go through each one of these, and then we'll provide a recommendation from the staff perspective on how we want to move forward. But option 1 is tracking actual costs. And so we spend time developing a cost model for what it takes a staff member to make a copy, what it takes a staff member to scan something. All of these things make up the entirety of what we can hope to charge for 100% dollar for dollar cost recovery. I think during our last discussion, that wasn't necessarily the goal. This is one option that the RCW defines as a potential to recover those costs. And obviously the biggest one is going to be staff time to copy and or send request records. And so we can get down to a fraction of a penny and send the actual bill before we provide those records. I would not recommend that, because that all of a sudden you're getting into diminishing returns in a hurry of the time that it's going to take us to develop this cost model, when on the back end we might be seeing a fraction of a cent. And so, well, we don't recommend that. There are some entities that do that. I'm sure there's reason for that. If they're just inundated with dozens daily, maybe that's their next mechanism to curb some frivolous requests. But we do not recommend that at this time. Next slide, Lee. So we brought this up. This is I would say the vast majority of entities implement statutory default, and specifically for electronic records. This is kind of the menu of services that we charge for, and we went through this in a little bit more detail last time. I won't go through each one of these again, but essentially, this would be the most pragmatic path forward to start implementing charges for services. Next slide, please. The last one is a flat fee, and this can certainly work for entities where you're getting a handful where they're exceeding $2 and they're relatively easy to produce. It has the ability to simplify the fulfillment process. But the issue that we get into, I would say the majority of ours, certainly on the admin side, are less than $2. And so it doesn't really satisfy the majority of the requirements that or the requests that we're seeing. And so I can see its benefits. I don't know that I would recommend that because I think it's an unnecessary it's an unnecessary cap for us and for what we see on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. And so with body worn camera, we surveyed several policies across the state. And so they're all on this idea of charging a set amount of time per minute of redacted footage that is produced. And so these rates range anywhere from 63 cents a minute up to 80 cents a minute. As you'll recall, City of Spokane Valley, they currently charge 76 cents a minute. That was from a 2023 cost study. So I'm sure if they went and did that again, they would probably increase. And so, I want to draw your attention to that bottom there. The RCW provides for exemptions in charging for this. And so if individuals are directly involved in the incident, including their representation, so attorneys, and then they list 3 state agencies that are also exempt from those costs. And so I think the majority of the discussion or the concern that I heard amongst council a month ago was how do we justify potentially exorbitant costs for folks that are requesting these, that are requesting them for legitimate purposes. And this is an avenue to which we can say, we understand, we will include in any potential future policy document these provisions that are highlighted in the RCW so that we do not charge them for those.
Yeah, victims should not have to pay
Correct.
to
Yes.
get the reports.
Absolutely. So next slide, please.
Can I ask you
Yeah.
questions? Sorry.
Yeah.
And Darren may know this answer. Are you getting a distinction in this statute and waiving costs from a requester that's either coming through an attorney or from the individuals directly when they may be involved in the incidents? Since a lot of times public records requests will come and you don't know who's requesting it. So in order to potentially waive costs, you're going to need to know who's making the request. So are you seeing that the individuals are saying, yes, I was involved in this incident,
And
I
so
want to report?
before DC jumps in, I will say that the RCW explicitly allows the entity to ask clarifying questions as to who is requesting.
And to just caveat that a little bit, yes, 9 times out of 10, when we have somebody that's requesting that is an attorney or a representative for the clients, they will let us know upfront right away and that they are representing the client. So it's easy to determine that.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. Based on the information that we went and collected, the staff recommendation is to implement the statutory default for physical and electronic records, adopt the City of Spokane 2023 cost study of 76 cents a minute, and most importantly, include policy language that allows for waiver of fees pursuant to both of these following RCWs. We talked about the body worn camera. Next slide, please, Lee. So RCW 4256-120 specifically allows for broad authority via city policy to waive charging for public physical and electronic records. And so taken directly from our ordinance number 2, section 8D, the city clerk or department head may provide copies of city records at no charge to individuals or government agencies doing business with the city, if the city clerk or department head determines such action is in the best interest of the city. And so there would need to be additional policy around how that is determined. But this gives you an idea of the broad authority that the RCW gives the cities in terms of who and who is not charged for public records.
Kyle, quick question back
Yeah.
on the 76 cents, since you said that was 2023. Is there any thought given to just adjusting that for inflation?
Certainly, and I think the reason that we did not recommend that is because we can adopt that policy as it currently states. We can update it, but I think our position as a staff is, again, we're not aiming for full cost recovery. This is a document that we can point to that is published, that we can obviously evaluate really on an annual basis going forward if we need.
So would this be part of the budget document or a separate ordinance by itself?
So
or
this would be a
resolution?
separate resolution.
Separate
Uh,
resolution.
and then it would be included in the fee schedule that is adopted annually by.
Okay,
ordinance.
and then that resolution would then reference the budget.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And so with that, next slide, I'll stand for any questions.
Councilor Spencer.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So do we know kind of what percentage of these body worn camera requests are essentially frivolous?
DC, you might have a better answer than me.
To be honest, I couldn't break it down to an actual percentage. I know that we see a majority of the body cam footage is coming from outside agencies, outside sources. I can tell you that because when we have an arrest case, for example, the body cam footage automatically gets sent to the prosecutor's office without them even asking. We already make sure that they get that. That goes to the defense attorney as well. And then the prosecutor also has the ability to send all that material to the defense without even being asked. So the people that are involved in the case automatically receive this body cam footage as well as any documents that go along with that prior to even being asked 9 times out of 10. So the big things that we are seeing are from a lot of people that are just requesting use of force information. They're requesting information on who has officer complaints, or what is the documentation, the video footage on all officer complaints that are done from this calendar year to this calendar year. So to break it down by an actual percentage of how many of those are being requested, I would say at least 50% being lenient of the body cam footage requesting that we get is on those other frivolous things that aren't involved with the case.
Any other questions? Okay, what are the next steps?
So we'll craft a resolution that obviously will have vetting by Sean as to any specific policy language outside of, if it is in the best interest of the city, a department head or a city clerk can determine. And so be curious to see if there's any case law challenging that before we adopt it. But if that's not the case, it might be that simple, and we may ask city council to adopt it with that language that is currently in ordinance number 2.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead first.
Kyle, just real quick, on option 2 for the statutory default, sorry. The electronic transmittal number, but you're saying 5 cents for every 4 files, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if someone made a public records request and they got, I don't know, it resulted in 20 emails, for example, we'd be talking 20 cents.
Yeah.
Which is fine with me. My only hesitation about that is that obviously I understand that the more I'm trying to think exactly how I want to say this. I understand that the more we have to provide them, the more that it costs us as a city to go through all those things. At the same time, that is not the fault of the person making the public records request. Because, if they're asking for an email or something, let's say between council members or between city staff or whatever the case might be on a specific topic, and that results in 7,000 emails, let's say, for the sake of argument, we're basically penalizing them because we've got so much of it on our back end. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And so that there's a weight of, is at what point are we considering these cost prohibitive? At what point do we potentially craft in the policy that files can be combined at the discretion of the city clerk? So that you're not getting sent 60 attachments and we can combine those all in one. That's, you know, if I would have said, you know, let's just like 15 or 20 years ago when we first passed the ordinance, let's say, that would have been much harder than it is now to throw a bunch of files in Acrobat and combine them. And so I think we can deliver your intent administratively so that we're not sending them 100 attachments.
Is there any city that puts a cap on how much they charge? So in other words, we've got the floor here. Is there a ceiling provision anywhere? And how does that work if there is?
Not that I have seen. The amounts that we start to see, or if I've seen two different policies that if your request results in a charge of over $50, you owe, call it a down payment. And so you see it on one side where there's, if you reach this threshold, then you're going to have to prepay for these documents. I haven't seen it where outside of this kind of flat $2, I guess a custom provision from a city.
And then how does it work if someone were to come to us and say, okay, I want these files related to this. And we say, okay, we've discovered 500 files, let's say. And then they come back to us and say, well, I don't want to pay, 500 times 5 cents or whatever.
Yeah.
So do they have to pay ahead of time or can they basically just back out at that point?
So they can back out. We wouldn't necessarily provide them the records unless we have this, and again, I will lean on the broad interpretation of if they are doing business within the city and we determine that it's in the best interest of the city, we'll give it to them for free anyways.
Okay.
I think, back to the original point from standpoint of I think you said 7,000 emails.
Hopefully it's not there.
No, and I get it, but I mean, the point's valid is you can also have someone who's making a request that lives in New York and has no basis whatsoever of anything or attachment to Liberty Lake. And so you've got 7,000 emails and you're like, well, we went through all this process, time and effort and cost to do this, to find that information, and then, not to charge them for it. The statute and legislature has allowed for that to happen. And so, that's why there's the statutory defaults relative to that. So you can have the other extreme where it's someone that's not even here that is wanting information for whatever purpose. And we'll assume for purposes of our discussion, it's not for commercial based, but they'll want that information. And, there should be the ability for the city to recoup some of that cost. And again, I've said this before, it's not a dollar for dollar expense, but it's to recoup some of that cost. And you can have those situations as well.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Mayor.
Kennedy.
Kyle, I wanted to say that thank you for bringing this forward in this previous meeting, because prior to that, my belief always was, I got the impression is that public records was coming so much from citizens to ask specific things about council and the employees and this type of stuff. And I always got the impression, or was led to believe, that takes a tremendous amount of our time. In reality, the benefit of this shows that's minimal. It's minimal compared to these other agencies, as Sean said, has nothing to do with the city. So I'm really encouraged to see that whatever request does come from citizens is not so overburdening.
Yeah.
So that's valuable information. Thank you.
Councilmember Kurtz.
I'm inclined to go with the staff's recommendations and see how it goes. I think, Kyle, you said that you can bring us some data actuals for next year for us to reevaluate this, see how it works.
Yep.
But I don't know that reinventing or having you go through a lot of work to come up with a cost model makes a lot of sense to me. When other cities have done that already. I know they're bigger cities than we are, but I don't think that changes the labor costs or the cloud costs or any of those things for us. So I'm inclined to support what you guys have recommended. And then just continue to discuss this every year at budget when we do our fee schedule and talk about that in amongst all the other fees that we do charge.
Right, Councilmember Ball.
So Kyle, so then if we go with staff recommendation, the resolution then would include the language that it's 76 cents a minute regardless of what it is, whether it's body camera or electronic, yeah, emails. I mean,
This would be body worn camera only, would
body-
be 76 cents a minute.
well, what about, emails or whatever else?
So that would fall under the statutory, statutory defaults on the second recommendation.
On what now?
Well, that's page 3 or 4.
Oh, right. Okay.
But option 2 for statutory defaults.
Yeah, okay. All right. got
So
it.
yeah, electronic transmittals is
Right.
their email cloud-based. Yeah.
Right, okay. Thank
Right.
you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
One more quick question, Kyle. At the last meeting, we discussed the possibility of even putting a penny on some of these things would hopefully weed out some of the folks, as Sean was mentioning, back east who are making
Right.
just all these terrible requests. So, so I just want to clarify, you think option 2 would more than suffice to make that happen to?
Yes, and
prevent-
I think I think making it as simple as possible. I understand the value of 1 penny for this will weed out some of these. I think this also substantially does that, and we rely on statutory defaults as our language in the resolution.
Thank you.
Councilmember Spencer.
So I know we've already talked about this. This is kind of a chicken or the egg type of thing, right? Because if somebody submits a request, they don't necessarily know what kind of documents or how many are going to be involved. And so I presume the resolution will talk a little bit, or that'll just fall in the policy as far as like at what point we're gonna, because that isn't really called out here. Like at what point are we going to look through the records and give them kind of an upfront, hey, we've already hit 100 or we've already hit 1,000 records or whatever, to give them a heads up that, do you want us to continue to search? Because I guess then it becomes tricky to determine, well, if they want to stop at, if they want to cap it at a certain dollar amount, which ones do you provide?
Mhm.
That sort of thing.
And so for
It's a valuable.
so for the simple ones that call it less than a day, we have benchmarks of communication that we send to the requesters saying, we'll get this back to you within 5 business days. We'll get this back to you in 10. Those would be relatively easy. We rounded them up. Here's 8 files. You owe us such and such. For the larger ones, we do maintain communication, but it's what's called installments. And so we would update them saying, hey, we're still investigating your request. We anticipate an update on or before such and such date. To date, we have located such and such files equal to such and such amount. So,
Okay. Sounds good.
There's no other questions. We'll look forward to the resolution.
excellent. Thank you.
Okay, next up, city role and communication policies regarding the library ballot measure. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mark, do you want to start on this one or do you want me to?
Why don't you go ahead and kick it off,
Okay.
and then we can answer questions
Okay.
as appropriate.
Okay, so we had a conversation at the last meeting, actually the last 2 meetings, when we were discussing putting the advisory vote forward about what role, if any, the city should play in getting information out to the public on this. And this is particularly relevant because there are numerous events, as we discussed earlier, going on at the same time as the ballot measure is on the ballot. As we talked about last week, there was was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I can't remember exactly when it was. There was the event at the library that had a lot of the designs. There are other events coming up. I think there's one later this week, if I remember correctly, Mark, or next week.
The The team is scheduled to be at the farmer's market this coming Saturday, and that's the last scheduled engagement that we have on the calendar. It doesn't mean we couldn't consider more, but that's the last scheduled one.
Okay. And so that coupled with the language that's appeared on the city Facebook page and some of the other devices that we use has at least concerned me a little bit. I think some of the other council members have expressed concern as well, not because of the information that we're putting out to the public, but rather because I think it's a little bit different than what this council approved to be on the ballot on August 4th. I'm specifically referring to some of the language that is in the survey that is going out that gives the three options and gives the amounts of those three options. And then it says in parentheses, no tax increase required. Now that may be true. We may not need a tax increase to fund those three options, but it may also not be true. We may need a tax increase to fund those options. It may be done via bond. It may be done via grants and it may be a compilation of all of those things. And I think Sean really came up with some great language that we put in the explanatory statement in the ballot measure that listed 4 or 5 different things or 4 or 5 different ways that this could eventually be funded. So my concern is that when we go out to the public and we tell them, hey, here are the 3 options and we can do all 3 of these without a tax increase. Yeah, that's technically true. We could do anything really we wanted. We've got so much debt capacity in the city that we could really do anything we wanted without a tax increase. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what is going to end up happening. So I'm bringing this forward because I think we need to have a conversation as a council about what exactly the defined language is that we're using when we're communicating about this, or to not communicate about it at all anymore after this last item at the farmer's market this weekend. And then just let the citizens discover what they need to discover and figure out what they want to do and then go from there. So I know Councilmember Spencer had also had some comments about the Facebook messaging, but I'll just open it by saying that and leave it to discussion.
Councilmember Spencer. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Thank you. So yeah, I'll just kind of chime in. I had reached out to Mark after seeing the city's Facebook post, inviting people to come to the open house. I'll just read a little bit of what I saw and then and what I found concerning. And this again was just prior to the event that took place at the library on the 7th. It says, whether you can attend the open house or not, we encourage you to review the complete presentation that was delivered during the July 15, 2025 City Council meeting, which you may find here at a link. A 1-question survey is also available, so you can let us know your preferred layout. The next paragraph started, it is essential to clarify that none of these options require a tax increase, all things remaining equal. As with any proposed capital project, funding will be determined by decisions made by the City Council during the budget process in current and future years. And so part of the conversation that Mark and I had was, I felt that last part of that paragraph was appropriate because it remained neutral. And as Mayor Pro Tem Cargill pointed out, we could have just as easily changed that wording to say it is essential to clarify that all of these options may require a tax increase, all things remaining equal. Either one of those statements would have been true, but I think both of them were biased. Or had the city chosen to use that language. And as I talked to Mark, he said, this is kind of a collaborative effort because I was hoping to find out, who exactly directed that specific post, because I believe is it David Gaynor that kind of actually officially posts the information once it's figured out?
On occasion, but for all intents and purposes, you can consider any of these posts that you see to be authored by me because ultimately I approve them.
Right, and that's what you had said when we spoke, that at the end of the day, regardless of what conversations took place, you've approved the language. And so, you know, we disagreed on the specific language on that. I had said we could just take that first sentence out and just simply go straight to, as with any proposed capital project, funding will be determined by decisions. So in other words, we haven't figured out funding. There are several avenues that we can take to fund this project. And then, you know, when I attended the event and scanned the QR code, and Mayor Pro Tem alluded to this, when you got down to the bottom, it showed all three options with the dollar amounts, and then in parentheses said no tax increase required. Again, that could have said on all three of them, a tax increase may be required. So I feel like at least my position would be that if the city is going to continue to communicate regarding this project, considering the fact that we haven't actually addressed how we intend to fund any one of these projects, if it's the will of the people that we move forward, that we either, you know, list no language regarding whether there will be a tax increase or not, because there very well could be one, or we just don't communicate on that at all. So I think my idea, you know, circles around, you know, the process that we had to create that advisory vote, which was Sean had to create something, you know, very I'm not even sure the word we're looking for, just unbiased, neutral.
Yep.
Yes. So if we can keep the communication very neutral, and I think looking over these statements, I think we can all agree that saying no tax increase required is not a neutral statement. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Kurtz?
I'm having a little trouble because I think at the last meeting that I was at, one of the things that I asked for was not only what the city, what our communication protocols would be, and I meant the city council. I kind of raised my hackles. I don't know what the right word is. There's about the idea of restricting our city's ability to talk about the library in any sense. I find that to be a step closer to neutering the city's ability to talk about a project that we have. It feels fairly authoritarian and controlling, and I don't know that that's the kind of council that we want to be. I am all for the citizens making up their own mind, but there are a lot of other countermeasures that are going on social media and in other platforms currently, and they have been since before this started, that seem to undermine the whole process and make it murky, whether things are people's official comments or whether they are their personal comments. And I would really hesitate for us to take any sort of direction where we limit city staff's ability to communicate about a project that we are actively engaged in at the moment.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's very important that we give the public as much information as we can so they can make a logical decision of how they want to be in this. And one of the things that's been bothersome to me is that we show the public, and we've done this when we bought the building for the church, is that we gave all these concepts, what it was going to look like, and the dollar amount and the design and all that type of costs. We did that also if we move into doing something at the City Square area that's there. But what's disturbing to me is that suddenly when we talk about this, that the dollar amount is given to us, but when it's given to the public, it's not there. That was one thing that was disturbing to me, disappointing to me, not disturbing. When I went into the meeting last Thursday at the library, I looked at the display and stuff. It's first class, absolutely first class. I walk in and I go, this is excellent. I like what I see here. But the thing I noticed immediately, there was no dollar amount. No dollar amount whatsoever. So I talked to the individual at Turner Townsend, Harry, and I happened to mention that. She says, well, we made the decision that would be confusing to the residents. that got my attention. How can we be showing these 3 different examples and asking them to make a choice of what you would like to have and don't show a dollar amount? Now, what's interesting, by the end of the evening, there were sticky notes on each of those with the dollar amount. If we're not consistent with our citizens, this is going to go down in flames. Because we talk about community center and then it's flex space. You know, Mark and I on Thursday happened to make this comment about community center. Mark made the comment and said, well, that we find that that's confusing for a lot of people. Well, you're going to tell me that flex space is not confusing? So if there's not that consistency there, I may not know everything about the library, may not know all of that, but one thing I do know quite a bit about, and that's marketing. I know how to market. And market is this: we have a library. We have a damn good library. And that library would be beneficial if it was larger, to be able to provide additional space for the citizens in a community center is very, very critical. But the challenge is what I'm seeing with people on the street, and also Thursday, people would say, well, they ask this question, why do we need a library? Why do we need a bigger library? And the general consensus comes back is that, well, I don't think we should do anything. What we don't have is a community center. Let's give them something they don't have. And in doing so, it will enhance the library for the expansion and consistency of making sure that library is successful for a long period of time. I strongly feel that we need to focus heavily on community center, library. Because the public, in the last few weeks where I've been talking to individuals, would say to me, well, Mike, why do we need a library? I don't think we need a library. On Saturday, there was 5 individuals that I talked to. All 5 said they would not support a new library. But when I explained to them what we're looking at was a community center and the benefit is that, 4 of the 5 said, oh, now that makes sense. Because why? They had sufficient information to realize that they have an opportunity to get something they don't have now. So I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we don't move ahead with very defined how we're going to market this.
Councilmember Ball.
Well, with regard to community center, flex space, whatever, it's just semantics, you know. I mean, I honestly don't know what, you know, community center means myself. Is it going to have a kitchen? Is it going to, I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions here. But one thing I will tell you, this just happened. Well, I know we'll get in the discussion later about the library moving to this new network, because the other one is no more. I wanted to check out a book that I'm very interested in, and I called the library, and there was 118 people on the waiting list for this book. Okay, I may as well go buy it. The point is, we do need a bigger library, because if they had more than a couple of copies, I wouldn't be on a list that has 118 people ahead of me. I was flabbergasted. So, I don't think any of this messaging is disingenuous. People are going to talk about this. It's a big deal. It is a huge big deal. So I think, yeah, like Annie said, it does sound authoritarian in my opinion, to just shut up about it. No, we can keep talking about it. It's not yeah, we're not an authoritarian country yet. So anyway, that's all.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So a couple of things. Just a few weeks ago, when we were talking about this, the comments were made that council members shouldn't say anything about this project because in their official capacity, because it would, or about the vote, I should say, because it would taint the process or taint the electorate, or the information wouldn't be accurate on one side or the other. And I don't remember anyone saying at that time that that was authoritarian. I remember us all having the comment of, okay, yeah, we shouldn't be going out and campaigning for or against this, but that the talk was fine and people could have a conversation about it. I'm not necessarily suggesting or saying that I favor preventing the city from talking about this at all. What I'm saying is that right now, with the language that we have on the survey, we are putting our thumb on the scale. We are telling people that we can do this one way, when that's not necessarily the way that we might end up doing this. And so when we go out to the public and we say, hey, fill out our survey, which I favor people being able to vote on the survey, tell us which one they like the most. That's terrific. What gets me a little bit agitated is when we only give them 1/4 of the information that Sean came up with. We're not telling them that it could be a property tax bond. We're not telling them that grants and donations could be part of it. We're not telling them that could be part city funds, existing city funds. We're just telling them the one thing that, hey, if you want this, no tax increase. And that's what people see. And so all I'm saying is that I think if the city is going to continue to talk about it, we should use the language that's going to be on the ballot and that Sean came up with. I think that's a very simple, honest request. And then that way we know it's consistent. Everyone's using the same language. The city's using the same language. It's exactly what we're going to see on the ballot come November, or excuse me, come October when ballots are mailed out.
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead, Mark.
So we agree with you. And just to give the entire council kind of some additional context here. So I had individual conversations with both council members Spencer, Kennedy, and Cargill about this. And so from a language development perspective, the language on the survey was developed prior to I can't remember what date the resolution was approved, but that language was developed prior to that. The language on the social media post was developed on the day of the open house, primarily to attract people and encourage them to come and participate in the open house. That was the purpose of that particular communication. Going forward, we absolutely agree. And to the extent that, and this kind of goes to the question that I asked during the special meeting, should we consider suspending the public engagement phase of the project that we had been fulfilling the scope on prior to the vote to call the special election or the advisory election? I don't know how we can continue to have discussions about the library without talking about cost. And people are going to ask naturally how it's going to be paid for. And if every time that we try to answer those questions, it brings up other questions, we're going to spin our wheels between now and November, having the same conversation over and over. And so my recommendation would be that we just suspend the public engagement phase of the project until the advisory vote.
No, to me, I think, and we did this during one of the other measures years ago. We had a sheet with a fact sheet that we all referenced. So we all had the same information, what the facts were, and we use that as our script. And that way we all stay on point. And yeah, it is difficult sometimes, other things come up. But I think people understand if something comes up that we would have to answer that would show a bias one or the other. I think people would would hope that they would understand and respect that, okay, well, that's something in my official capacity I can't answer or I can't weigh in on, something like that. Maybe have a couple of pre-prepared phrases, right, that we can use to, it's like at the farmer's market booth during election. Well, somebody asks you, oh, sorry, I can't, that's a question I can't discuss here. It could be fairly simple, but I think if we all have the same sheet of music, that we're singing from, then I think that puts us in a better position for success. Oh, boy. Who was first? Councilmember Smith. Go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
So I wouldn't support the city suspending what we've already paid for, the marketing campaign. I wouldn't support that at all. I do agree with the mayor's comments about having some sort of script, and I think that was what I was asking for a couple of weeks ago. What are our agreed upon talking points that city staff have, that we have as city representatives have, so we do stay on track with what we know to be fact. Because the fact is, we don't know if there is going to be a tax increase. So just say we don't know. We don't know how we're paying for this. We don't know. We don't even know if we're doing this project. Like, we don't know. And I think that there's a great uncomfortableness with people saying, I don't know. We're not sure. We'll have to see what happens, because that's the spot that we're in. We've put this advisory vote on asking for a yes or no answer. And there's all this contextual stuff that literally nobody knows. We have not made any decisions, which is, again, all this time why I've said I voted not to do this, because we don't know. Those are decisions we'll make later. So I do support the continued paid for messaging that's neutral. And I do support having us have some agreed upon talking points the city council is a part of. And that when we are messaging in our official, or what can be construed as our official capacity in the community in any form, we stick to those talking points. Because if the true goal was to actually get the public's unfettered opinion about whether they want a library or community center, we need to not interfere with that. There's a lot of chatter about the social media group, about the influencing, about fake accounts being created to do things. And I think we need to be way above board on how we, if our interpersonal and our personal and professional capacities are mixed in how we're interacting with that, because I think we're going to get ourselves in trouble if we're not.
Councilmember Spencer.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I don't think the city needs to stop talking about it. I just simply think it needs to remain neutral. And so if the city's committed to doing that, I think that's fine. I think from a standpoint of individual council members talking about this out in public, I don't think we all agree on this topic anyway. So I don't think we have to have a list of specific things that we are going out as a unified council saying, these are the things we know and these are the things we don't know. I think it is our responsibility to educate people. If we know, so going back to this statement in the Facebook post, and this is something I asked Mark, it is essential to clarify that none of these options require a tax increase. It's essential to whom? It's essential to clarify to whom? Who decided that it was essential to clarify that? And in my opinion, and this is what I said to Mark, if anything's essential to clarify to the citizens is that we do not have cash sitting in the bank to pay for any one of these options. If there's anything essential to relay to our citizens, that is a fact. We do not have the cash to pay for any one of these projects with cash. So if we're gonna take a unified message out to the public, we can say, we do not have the cash for this. We do have options to pay for this, including going into debt. But I don't think leading with none of these options are going to require a tax increase, if we're being honest with ourselves, relays the message of neutrality. It just doesn't. So again, I think as long as we can go neutral and say, hey, here are several options, and I do believe we should include in that information that we don't have cash sitting in the bank ready to pay for this project. So we will have to explore different funding options, and none of those decisions have been made. I think that those are all just fine things, and those are things I can explain at the farmers market, and everybody's going to have their own idea of how they think things ought to go. And just because we're there, represent as representatives of the city, doesn't mean we have to say that we're all in favor of a tax increase, or we're not in favor of a tax increase, or we're all in favor of going into debt for this project, because we don't all agree on this. I'm pretty positive that's the case.
Councilmember Kurtz.
So I agree on educating on facts. And I think that that's what I'm asking for, is what those agreed upon facts are. Because I think that we don't agree on what the facts are. And I think that's what Councilmember Spencer just said. But I think that also the history is we had a plan and we had cash in the bank to pay for a library with cash on hand. We were awarded a grant, and somewhere along the way in February, we decided to go on with this huge, really big, huge plan and do something at Town Square. And wouldn't that be great? And now here we are railing against the fact that that's the plan. And that is one of the parts that is really irritating for me. And I think it's really irritating for people in the community. There's this message out there that the city's doing this crazy plan that's super expensive and we can't afford it, because the same people that voted for it voted down the plan we had cash for and took our cash and paid off Trailhead early. So I think the decisions that we're making all along were leading up to making something so expensive that nobody would ever vote for it. And so I would really like to have a list of facts that I will use in whatever capacity to promote that, or to just make sure that we're all on the same page. If other council members choose not to use it, I think that's up to them. But I am curious from Sean, when we're talking about, now that it is an advisory vote on a ballot measure, there is language about what we can and we cannot say, I believe. And I'm curious if you have any legal perspective, either now or forthcoming for us, on what we can or cannot do in our official capacity.
So I think there's some blurring of the lines between what the requirements are of an advisory vote ballot and the ballot information and the information supposed to be on the ballot versus factual information that's going to be presented. The ballot information is specifically statutory based in what you can and can't do, and local rules for what can go on there. That's one thing. And the way the language was written and how I wrote it was based upon how the council was at this particular point in time relative to an advisory vote. And remember, it's a non-binding vote, so it's different than if it wasn't advisory. So you have that aspect of it. Now, when you get to talking about the project, you're not hamstrung from having discussions as council members. I think the issue is blurred between having dialogue about factual information about the library and or community center, however you want to discuss it, and explaining that and campaigning for it, and going about using your capacity as a council member and or facilities for the city to campaign one way or the other. That's the issue that will come into play, and that's problematic. But if you want to have factual information, and the first line of the ballot explanation description is the council is considering, and that's exactly what the council is doing right now. They're considering on what they want to do with regard to a library and community center. And there are three options currently that the council has been provided and have discussed and or will discuss. Maybe one of those options works, maybe none of them work. But I don't see it as an issue that you're going to give factual information about what the council is in fact considering, and you're asking the public to have an advisory vote relative to what the council is considering. So I can only give you right now a broad information, because what you guys all want to talk about individually, I don't know what that is. And I don't know what questions you may get from somebody, but I think it's when you start saying, okay, here's factual information, and now you're getting opinion, now you're campaigning, now you're trying to do something different from that in your capacity as a council member, that there will be problems.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Without a doubt, I think all of us are quick to say we want to have the facts. We want to have the proper facts that's out there. My comment, please don't allow us to be confrontational on it. But to go back, when we talked about the church building, that in round figures, that was a $6 million project. we never had $6 million. Please, we never had $6 million. We never had the grant. We never had the grant. We were on the list that we could qualify for the grant, but we never had the grant.
There was an award letter saying that we got the grant. It was not funded. Those are two different things.
Right, yeah, you better believe it's two different things, because it's not funded. Because my comment had been on a couple of meetings that if we move ahead on that, or wherever we are, if suddenly we didn't get that grant of $1 million, we're not going to stop moving ahead on the library. We would have found the $1 million. The challenge was that the $6 million, that the $1 million was considered, we already had it in the bank, and we did not. But keep in mind, there's also $500,000 put in there of potential donations, which we also didn't have. So in reality, we had to back out, because normal accounting situation, you can't include the $500,000 in possible donations. You might as well say 5 million. Might as well say 15 million, as has come up recently. The same thing with that $1 million on it. So we never had that money, but also realized the $4.5 million of roughly whatever it is, now it just wasn't laying around. We had to take that from different departments to be able to come up with that. Okay, so please keep in mind, yes, Mayor, I can.
I'm just asking Kyle, I'm visually asking Kyle if he wants to address the comments. I was not interrupting you.
Well, I will take that as an interrupt, but please,
I didn't say a word.
please do something.
No, so to that point, yeah, so we have different capital revenue streams, general fund being one of them. What we're gonna propose in the budget coming up is
No,
potentially.
Going
funding
back to the
City Hall.
comments about the previous project, that we didn't have the money.
The 5.7 million for the legacy project.
Correct, yes, and so we had some from general fund, we had some from real estate excise tax fund. So we had different revenue streams to account for that. Up to your point, the grant and the donations. And so we had that cash on hand.
Kyle, can I clarify this?
But yeah, I mean, it's you
We're-
can
we're
make
kinda
your own
get-
inferences about where that
We're
would-
getting off track here.
Yeah.
The point is this. We keep saying, oh, we could have done this, we could have done this, we could have done this last year with Legacy Church. That ship has sailed. City staff has told us that the more important priority at the moment is turning that into City Hall, which we've done. Regardless, we did not have $500,000 in donations sitting in the bank. We were hoping to get that, but we did not have $500,000 sitting in the bank. So any suggestion, put aside the grant, whether we're getting the grant or not getting the grant, we didn't have the grant in the bank either. We had, yes, about $4 million in the bank for that project, which we still have about $4 million in the bank for the library project. So this notion that it's been stolen from the library, or that we could have done it last year, or that we should have done it last year into a building that was 3,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet less than what the library told us they needed is ludicrous.
Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody to keep the tone down a little bit. It's getting a little bit heated in here. Councilmember Ball.
Well, I just wanted to say with regard to the grant that we didn't
Okay.
get, the grant was only specific to that building, to the Legacy Church building. And so that's why we didn't get the grant. And it was the majority's idea, after the understanding that, well, at build out this library at the Legacy building wouldn't be big enough. It was the majority's decision to do something bigger.
And I'm gonna walk this back. Point's been made. This is not what this workshop is about. It's not about going backwards.
Mm.
We need to move forward. What is the communication going to be? What's the strategy going to be? Can we work on that fact sheet, and how quickly can we get it together? And I suggest starting with Jandy's presentation about why, what we are short for space and all of that she presented. If we start there and go ahead. Okay, Mark, can we start to work? I'll get you in just a second, Mayor Pro Tem. Can we start putting that together?
Sure. We have most of that assembled.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here on the fact sheet. We were talking earlier about being authoritarian and saying that the city couldn't talk about this, or the city shouldn't talk about this. But now we're saying we're gonna create a fact sheet that we all have to talk off of. I mean, that's just as authoritarian. It's just authoritarian in the other direction. We're saying that nobody can talk about this unless you use the fact sheet. Now, what I'm specifically referring to is not necessarily what individual council members have to say. If you support the project, great. If you don't support the project, that's fine too. If you're kind of in the middle, fine. You're going to go out and you're going to talk to your constituents and you're going to express your point of view. What I'm talking about is the official city communication on it. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not here to police what this person says or that person says or what Councilmember Spencer or Councilmember Kurtz or anybody says. Everybody's going to have their different opinion, as Councilmember Spencer indicated. We all have different thoughts about this. What I'm specifically referring to is just the city communication. That's all I'm saying.
Councilmember Kurtz.
And I'm saying that I'm willing to communicate in line with what the city's communication is, if it's factual, because I think we're held to a higher standard, and I believe that dealing in facts is important, and the unagreed upon facts are where things are going sideways out in the community, and the mixed messaging. And I mean, clearly there are people on here that are not in favor of the library. I'm willing to be neutral and be held to that standard, because I think it's important for the voters to have unfettered elections. And so regardless of what y'all do, that's what I'm going to do, because I think it's important for the public to hear the facts and to be able to reach out to the city for any clarification that they might have on the project itself. So you can come along with me on this higher standard, or you can do your own thing.
Mark, I'll look to you on the city
Yeah.
piece.
So just whether the opinion is that it was leading or not, that's not what I'm referring to. The statements that the city staff has made and incorporated into any communication that's gone out have been factual. Thinking back to my comments earlier in the city administrator's report with respect to the roles of the council and with respect to the roles of the staff, I'm again asking for clarity and unambiguous direction so that I can ensure that the staff understands the policy. So what is the policy?
Mayor Pro Tem.
I would just submit that I think the safest information is the information that Sean came up with. That's my point of view. Even though it's not for the same circumstance, I think that the language that Sean has is the language that's the most neutral, that while some of us wanted more, some of us wanted less, that was the language that the city attorney came up with, and I think that's the language we should use.
With regard to the funding.
Correct. Well, with regard to the entire thing, I mean, Sean has like 4 or 5 sentences that are in there as an explanatory statement, and I think that's a very neutral way of saying it. That's my opinion.
I think I had Councilmember Spencer first.
Thank you. One, I'm wondering, Rochelle, can we pull up the statement that Sean put together so everybody can see that? Do you have that available?
I can pull that up.
Yeah, so in the meantime, I just want to point out, again, going back to this language in the Facebook post. Can we agree that if Sean had put this wording in, that it is essential to clarify that none of these options require a tax increase? Can we agree that that's not whether it's a factual statement or not, it is not a neutral statement? Can we agree on that as a council?
They don't require it. Like nothing requires it because no decision is being made. So I guess what I'm saying is it's not new. I'm sorry, I wasn't recognized, but he asked a question of us, so I apologize.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying.
So let me ask the question. If Sean had put in the ballot measure, it is essential to clarify that all of the options the city council is considering may require a tax increase. Would there have been any opposition to that wording?
It's in absolutes. So yes, I don't think that that's appropriate either.
All I said was the opposite of the way this is worded.
Say it again.
So it currently, the way it went out to the public, it is essential to clarify that none of these options require a tax increase. if we were to have changed it to said, it is essential to clarify that all of these options may require a tax increase. They're both factual statements. But I think we can agree that neither one of them are neutral. So I think if we can pull up what Sean put together, which I do believe is neutral, and we can stick to that messaging, I don't have any problem with anybody going out there and explaining what they understand the options to be. We're all going to have different ideas about how we think this ought to be funded. None of us can go out there and say, we've decided as a council that we're going to go into debt for this project. None of us can go out there factually and make a statement like that. But we very well could make that decision at some point in time. So for us to go out to the public and say, here are our options. And again, I believe that the only thing that's essential to clarify with the public is that we do not have the cash for any one of these projects sitting in the bank set aside for a project such as this. In my opinion, that's the most critical thing that the public should know. Not that none of them are going to require a tax increase, or that, that we definitely are going to have to go into debt for this. Those are all options, but to go out there and use this wording, which I do not believe is neutral language, because the opposite, I think there are some around this dais who would oppose the opposite statement, but are okay with this statement.
I would say, but I would disagree with both personally. I think it mislead, both statements are misleading, because and said, saying that, funding options will be determined in the future.
Agreed.
Is neutral.
And that was my conversation with Mark. If we could remove that first sentence from that paragraph and just jump straight to, as with any proposed capital project, funding will be determined by decisions made by the city council during the budget process. That is completely neutral.
Now so that is currently in the survey, correct?
It was on the Facebook
Okay.
post that went out,
But
and as
it's
far as
been-
I'm aware.
but it's been corrected.
The wording did get slightly altered to remove all things remaining equal, but it still says it's essential to clarify. And my question still is, it's essential to whom? Is it essential to Mark? Is it essential to the mayor? Is it essential to somebody else here within city staff? Because that is not a neutral statement. That is a biased statement.
So again, context is important. This post on our social media site was designed to encourage engagement in the open house. The language had already been adopted into the survey prior to the resolution being approved. Most of the reason why that wording took the form that it did was because 2 nights before, we had a gentleman in open public comment saying he traveled across country to get here because the city council was in the process of enacting a tax increase, and he wanted to, quote, stop it. And so one of the objectives in the discussion at the open house was to get people to participate, with the understanding that there was at that particular point in time, no fundamental difference between options 1, 2, and 3. We purely wanted their honest feedback, neutral of any funding question at all.
I think maybe the delivery didn't fit the intent. I get the intent to say, we want your opinion on these regardless of funding mechanism, but I don't think it was interpreted maybe the way it was intended. Is that fair?
I don't know, because no one has expressed any concerns other than council members Spencer and Cargill.
Just a real quick follow-up, Mark. How difficult is it to change the survey to simply remove the language about no tax increase and replace it with funding to be decided?
We can change that right now, which I can do if the council wants that to be the policy. I will also tell you that the survey will only be up for another day or so, and there are only 90-something responses. But we can change the language on it at any time, including today.
Councilmember Kurtz.
So I have a clarifying question. Mayor Pro Tem, you mentioned something about Sean's language being the message going forward. And I wanted to clarify whether the intent is that for it to be the only thing the city can ever talk about with the library, or whether that's just specific to funding.
Well, I know Rochelle was trying to put it up on the screen. Do you have it yet, Rochelle? I don't, while it's coming up, I don't have any problems with this going out and showing concepts and having people vote on the concepts. I think that's great because it gives us another indication of what people are interested in and what they want. All I'm referring to is the language about the funding because we don't know. And so to the extent that Sean came up with those 4 or 5 specific measures, if you can scroll down there, Rochelle. Keep going. Is it on here, Sean?
No, it's not in the resolution. It
Yeah.
would be separate
The ballot title.
description, the ballot description.
I'll get that.
So it could include that exact language, or again, it could just say funding to be determined. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. And you know, we had the little exchange here about whether it is or it is accurate or not accurate to say may require a tax increase or doesn't require a tax increase. Both of those things are accurate. When we talked about the language a couple of weeks ago, and I read out what I had jotted down as a suggestion, and I said in there, may require a tax increase, the collective groan in the room was overwhelming because I think everyone recognized that maybe that wasn't the best way to go about saying it because we didn't know for sure. And so we came up with something else. Same thing on the flip side of what we're talking about here with the survey and with the social media post.
Here we go. That quote from funding options on is, I think, sufficient for our discussions. With regards to funding, go ahead.
And so if we're trying to achieve facts and a consistent message from whoever is a part of this regarding funding, this is fine with me, or to be determined, either one of those. But if we're looking at limiting the city's ability to talk about the library project and only say these things ever, that is where I'm not.
No, I
support.
think the issue was just about the funding piece.
And I'm
It sounded
unclear. That's
like
why
it,
I'm
yeah.
asking to make sure everybody's 100% clear on, because Mark's asking for a policy and I don't feel like I understand. So if that is in fact what we're talking about, I'm fine.
So jump in if I'm assuming. So if we agree that the policy around talking about the financing, we go with this. If that's what everybody wants. I mean, I'll take a motion for that and second and a vote or whatever, however we want to do that, and that should make it clear.
So moved. Do you need me to say it? Rochelle, do you need me to make a motion, official motion?
Yes.
Yes.
See, how do I want to phrase this? I'll make a motion that for official city purposes, when discussing the funding, we use funding options may include grants, donations, future property tax bond measure, and or other city general fund revenues. Or simply funding to be determined. Does that work?
Second.
Any comments?
Did I hear a second?
I did.
I haven't gone there. Second,
I did.
Councilmember Kurtz. All right, any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Question, is in the verbiage that we just saw, word for word.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, that's, yeah, he read it right from there. All right, any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. All right, on to city business. We're up to the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business consent agenda items 10A, B, C, and E.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Kurtz. All those in favor of approving consent agenda items A, B, C, and E, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? My motion passes 5-0.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business item 11A, the recreation agreement for inclusive fitness and nutrition.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Kurtz. Any questions or discussion? Jen is online.
No.
Go ahead, Linda.
Hey, Jen, I am curious about the fee structure for this Inclusa. It says $75 and I think 15% comes back to the city. I mean, that's great, but is that for 4 classes or for the, I don't understand what you're getting for that, what the consumer, the citizen's getting for that.
So it's for 4 classes.
And they can be taken over like a month or do you have to?
Well, I'll have to find out. I don't know quite the details, so I'll find out and get back to you.
Yeah, because the way it was worded, it's like, it sounds like they're all, you have to take them all at once, or I don't know. It just wasn't very clear to me. So I just want to know exactly how this works. And
Well, and that's really, and just to clarify, that's something between the person signing up and Inclusa. That's not part of the contract between us and Inclusa.
so, okay, so the only reason we're involved in this is because they need, why? I mean,
We're just like any other rec contract, we're the conduit for people to sign up.
and that for that we get 15%. Okay.
20%.
I just.
Oh, how many, Jen? 20?
20.
20.
Oh, 20%, okay. Okay, and then on the, let's see, what was it, the cooking thing, so again, it's 1 class is what that appeared to be for $75, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jen? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving action item A, the recreation agreement for inclusive fitness and nutrition, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business item 11B, the recreation agreement for inclusive health and wellness.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any questions on this one? All right, not hearing. Those in favor of approving the recreation agreement for inclusive health and wellness, please say aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business item 11C, the recreation agreement for Core Climbing Company.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any questions, discussions? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the rec agreement with Core Climbing Company, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, any opposed? All right, they were actually at Barefoot, and I think when I talked to the guy, I think the owner actually lives here at Liberty Lake. So it's excited to get
Of
that.
the core climbing or?
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business item 11D, the agreement to join the Inland Share Library Group.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any questions for Jandy while she's here? Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Ball and then Councilmember Kennedy.
Jandy, it's not a question. It's more of just a request from you. We had someone a couple of weeks ago in one of the public comments make a comment that we got kicked out of the community library network, or we left it because we wanted to do our own thing. Can you clarify just what this is for anybody who's listening?
Yes, so basically the CIN network has been in operation since the 80s. We went through the process of trying to change our name and found out that some of the paperwork hadn't been filed correctly. And so the simplest way to make the adjustments was to basically
Dissolve.
dissolve. Thank you. I was going to say deform, and I'm like, that's not a word. Dissolve and then reform. 2 library networks have chosen not to reform with us and do their own thing, but nobody's been kicked out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Ball.
And with this new arrangement, are we still gonna have the same amount? Well, not really. I mean, will we have enough resources to draw from so that, the collection doesn't fizzle?
Yes, we did have two groups leave, so there will be a smaller amount of resources, but for us, it's always going to be way more resources than we can have on our shelves. So I think our public will still be very happy with the selection.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. A little bit back when Councilman Ball made a very good comment about a particular book you were interested in and found out there was 100 and some odd in there. But if I understand correctly, we can also draw from all these other libraries. What was interesting to me is that some time ago when we were talking about this, a citizen presented this to me, which I found to be flabbergasted. I had no idea that we have the amount of books that we could draw. If this is correct, I was glad to give you a copy of this, showed 20 cities, Newport Library, Priest Rivers, Silver Hills, Spirit Lake, all the St. Mary's. These are all libraries that are within this group, correct?
Yes, I can read the list. I wasn't sure if you guys were going to ask that, so I have the full list.
Yeah, it's not just the whole list. The thing I found interesting is this, of all of those were included in there, and we have 22,000 books. What I hear a lot of is that, well, suddenly now we need room for 44,000. What's interesting is that these 20 cities compile 390,746 books. I was flabbergasted that there's that many on it. So that, if it's correct, we have a huge amount of, this is a very great thing that we're part of, that if we don't have it on our shelves, we can certainly get it from these others, correct?
Yes, we can order books from other library resources. This is why I love that we're in a library consortium. It's just the kind of standard level of service is to provide enough resources for your community as a whole and not depend on those other libraries.
Okay, but in the situation as Councilman Ball, there's 100 and some odd individuals. If we're aware of that many, can't we go ahead to help our citizens go into these other cities? And if they have that book, be able to get that?
Yes.
So we don't have 100 and some odd people waiting?
That is with going to those other library systems. So in our catalog, we'll have, say, 20 copies of a book, 10 copies of a book, 5 copies of a book. The fact that there's 118 that's how many people are still on hold with the number of books that we have.
And that 118 isn't necessarily all Liberty Lake, it's across the entire network.
Yes, it's across the entire network.
Right.
So we do have some very popular titles, like The Women, or when Prince Harry's The Spare book came out. We will have books that have 118 people on the holds list for it.
I think the bottom line that was so impressive is that this consortium, or whatever we want to call it, we're in, that many books that we can draw from is really exciting. That
Yes.
really is a great thing that we're involved with.
Yes, when I was in college, I worked for a local city library and we only had the books that we had on our shelves. And it was really frustrating for me, particularly in the summer, we would get all these kids that would come in and they want to read Harry Potter or Percy Jackson. And we only had one copy of the book and there was 15 kids on the list. So I'd have to say to them, you're number 15 on the list, you'll get the book in 15 months. That doesn't feel like a good level of service. So I love that we work with a library consortium, and most times I can tell someone, if I don't have the book on the shelf, I can get it for you on Tuesday or Friday in just a few days.
Well, and with our electronic versions as well, because I usually do the audio books, and there's one I just registered for, and there's like I bet it's about an 18-month wait for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the agreement to join Inland Shared Library Group, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks, Andy. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve general business item 11E, the interlocal agreement with the Central Valley School District.
Second.
You know, second by Councilmember Spencer. Any questions for this from Deputy Chief while he's here? Not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the interlocal agreement with the Central Valley School District, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Not hearing any. All right, last one.
Mayor, I might need help with this one, so I'll just say this is 11F now, the Trailhead Range Ball Dispenser Structure.
Okay.
But I'm not making the motion yet.
Okay. Before we get a motion, let's have Kyle. run
Yeah,
through it.
absolutely. So last fall, myself and Public Works Director Ben Turner and our facilities lead Brian Bachman went out to assess the need of the new dispenser over at the driving range. And so we programmed a very rough estimate of $80,000 into Fund 338 for the 2025 budget. That was not relayed to the capital facilities plan. So we don't have like a PF8 to assign to this, but it is accounted for in the budget that we adopted. And so that's the reason that we omitted the capital facilities number. So.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So I guess my question, and Kyle, you may not be able to answer this. Is this driving range ball dispenser structure going to be coded in special? I mean, $65,000 seems like a lot for a structure that's just going to cover the driving ball or the balls, right?
Right. And so there's additional considerations because it's a commercial facility that we have to have footings and we have to fully construct an enclosure. We can't just go to Tough Shed and slap something over this. And so as much as I would love to do that, but
but it is basically just a shelter for this machine.
Yeah, it's a shelter for the machine, and it's attached in some fashion to our electrical building right next to that. I don't have a schematic.
Yeah.
But considerations of that electrical building right next door were part of this as well.
Okay.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll make the motion
Okay.
to approve general business item 11F, which was previously 10D, the Trailhead Range Ball Dispenser Structure.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any further questions on this one? Not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the Trailhead Range Ball Dispenser Structure, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, we're up to council comments. Anything further from the council? Right, okay, Councilmember Ball.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to make a couple comments about some ideas I got on a trip I was just on, and that's why I wasn't here for all the special meetings, but I was in Scandinavia and I was very impressed with some of the things they do over there for energy. Oh my God, it's so clean. It's unbelievable. But one of the things I found really interesting was in Denmark and Copenhagen. They're very fastidious with their recycling. Everything has its own little compartment. There's several. Anything that cannot be recycled then is incinerated in a structure that is fascinating. It's kind of shaped like this slanty, and then this side is straight up and down. So they incinerate whatever cannot be recycled. And I'm not sure how they accomplish this, but basically it creates steam rather than polluting smoke. Then they use that steam for energy. And this is quite funny too. Even like when people get cremated, it's turned into steam. So, you know, Aunt Edna could be, you know, heating your home for all you know. But no, it's true. I mean, I thought that was very interesting. And then in addition to this structure looking like this side is a ski hill that can be used year round, a silicone ski hill, and this side's a climbing wall. So I just thought that whole idea was very, very interesting and, you know, ahead of its time. All three of those countries I visited, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, big on solar power and wind power. Hardly anybody uses fossil fuels. Anyway, I just was really, really fascinated by how clean everything is and these different ideas they have for energy. I'd been to Iceland before too, and they use geothermal for their energy because there's so many volcanoes. So anyway, I just think there are ways that this country could do better in creating, you know, renewable energy. And I found those options all just really fascinating, especially what they're doing in Copenhagen. I just thought it was wild. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any further okay, Councilmember Spencer, then Councilmember Kennedy.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't know if this is going to be a question for Lisa, tee this up, but I know, so the other day I was wrapping up something at work and hopped onto YouTube and noticed library board meeting had been uploaded. And so I started watching that and I saw Lisa hop on there. And it sounded to me like she was soliciting a member of that board and then all the other commissions for something similar to what I thought we had voted not to move forward with mid-May on that capital facilities advisory group. So I don't know if Mark, you can clarify that, or maybe Lisa. I meant to send an email, but I thought, well, since we're all here.
I don't know that,
Lisa's on.
yeah.
Yeah, so, Councilmember, Spencer, the intent of this is that we're going into a very intensive effort to put together a 20-year capital facilities plan as part of our comprehensive plan. And so I am trying to put together a work group that's going to be working with us on, we've got a number of studies that are going to feed into this. Certainly the network analysis, the pavement master plan for on the transportation side of things, the sidewalk master plan, and the parks plan, the facilities master plan, etc. So all these things are going to feed into this, and we need to develop this 20-year capital facilities plan. This is something that I'm reaching out as a working group to try and make sure that we have representatives from the different commissions who can then engage the commissions in this conversation, that they can help us get the word out, and engage the community on this. So it is similar. It's not the 6-year capital facilities plan. It's part of the comprehensive plan. Again, as you've heard me bang on this drum before, one of the things that we are required to do is to utilize early and continuous public engagement on all of the different elements. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Again, our timeline is very compressed and whatnot, but we wanted to make sure that we were getting feedback from all the various commissions, the bike ped safety committee, other groups within the city. And so, yes, I am trying to put together a working group that will help us get through the 20-year capital facilities plan in the way to just kind of put it together, help prioritize some projects as we are building it. It's the city of Spokane does a very similar thing with their comprehensive plan. They actually, for the 20-year plan, it was a more extensive process, and they're going through that right now. But even on their annual 6-year plan, they have a group of citizens that represent various committees that work to kind of just be a steering committee as we go through this. We're looking for force multipliers to try and make sure that we're getting the engagement that we need on something that's often a very dry topic.
Thanks for the explanation, Lisa. Can you further explain a little bit how that differs from what we talked about a couple months ago? I think it was mid-May when we voted against moving forward with that advisory group regarding the capital facilities plan.
So my understanding was you were talking about creating a commission. This is not a commission. This is a working group. And again, my understanding was you were talking about this as for the annual 6-year the annual process in putting together the 6-year capital facilities plan. This may be a great opportunity to provide a proof of concept, or it may show that it's not a very effective concept, but all I know is that we're trying to figure out. The city's never undertaken a 20-year capital facilities plan before. Again, my thought on this, and again, I feel strongly that we need to have engagement as we look at the build out of our city. We've got one opportunity to really kind of say, okay, what is it that we need and how do we make it happen? And there's going to be a lot of competing interests. And a lot of competing projects. I want to make sure that we have a robust list, a robust discussion, even if there are some projects that ultimately end up being on a future potential projects list. Excuse me. Sorry, allergies. That end up on a future potential projects list that maybe won't even be within the fiscally constrained 20-year capital facilities plan. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. And I believe you mentioned in your comments in that particular meeting that you would be approaching the council mid-September. Can you kind of just give us a high level, at what point will kind of be brought into the process?
Yeah, so we have the capital facilities plan. So we were starting early. I was sharing with them the 6-year capital facilities plan, seeking to get some input and encouraging them to provide us with input. We're starting early this year. At the September 2nd meeting, we'll be bringing back the 6-year capital facilities plan as an early working draft. We're also trying to do outreach now to the citizens and to various commissions. I'm literally meeting with each and every commission to share it with them, to have them look at it, to give it some thought. They're getting it. It's really hot off the presses, and so looking for them to look at it, give us feedback as we're working through it. We tried to do this through surveys last year that basically fell, frankly, flat. We didn't get much participation. We didn't get much feedback. Just trying to shake it up, do it a little differently to get a little bit more feedback on what we're doing with our capital facilities planning process.
Thanks, Lisa.
Sure. Thank you.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. This last item I want to refer to is to me is comical, but it's amazing how a comment can be made from a citizen or anybody, and it can grow exponentially and get totally out of control. Unbelievable. I had a conversation today, called Officer Morgan and asked him on this. We had a citizen come up to the podium here at our last meeting. And of course, we always ask them to identify if they're a resident or not. Well, this individual came up and said, yes, she was a resident. She lives across from the park, and she streaks through there. Now, I laughed at that because she was trying to be humorous. And that's really all it was just that. And she went on and made her comments. What amazing enough, this last week, on 2 different occasions, I had 3 separate people ask me and said, well, is there a streaker going on in the park? And I knew exactly where it came from. And I told them the story. I says, no, this lady is not a streaker. It was just a comment that was thrown out there, and it kind of gets out of hand. But then on Saturday, I had this third person get a hold of me that has 3 children, says, I'm concerned about going to the park if we have a streaker running around. So I assured her that is not the case. I was laughing hysterically because I thought it was so funny. So today I had a conversation with Officer Morgan. I didn't get a chance to ask Mark this on that they had any reports. And no, there's been no reports whatsoever on it. But I assure these individuals that if they hear anything about that, feel free to contact the police department or Mark McAvoy, because they can set them straight on something like that. But in no circumstance do I believe that we have a flasher running around the park, even though she said that she was.
Well, we appreciate Deputy Chief clarifying that.
Yes.
All right, any other council comments?
It's the naked truth.
All right, we have no public hearings or appeals. We do have 2 resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 25-278, a resolution of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, approving the final plat of Tritina 9th Edition, located in the south half of the northwest quarter of Section 10, Township 25 North, Range 45 EWM, Liberty Lake, Washington, file 2015PL001.
Okay.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 25-278.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Spencer. Are there any questions for Lisa on this? Doesn't seem like it. All right, this is a resolution, so we do open up for public comment on this topic only. So if there's anybody here in chambers or online who'd like to make a public comment on resolution 25-278, please do so now. If you're online and would like to, please send a note to our meeting host in the chat feature. And your window is very short to do that. All right, do we have anybody? All right, we have no public comment. Any questions? I'll go back to the council again. All right, all those in favor of approving resolution 25-278, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. next.
Resolution 25-279, a resolution of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, approving the final plat of Legacy Ridge West, 3rd Edition, located in portions of the southwest and southeast quarters of Section 16, Township 25 North, Range 45 EWM, Liberty Lake, Washington, file 2014 PL 0003C.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 25-279.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Spencer. Any comments or questions? Councilmember Kurtz.
I just had one question. It looked like there were extensions of the original preliminary plat. Are the extensions still in effect?
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
Good. Any further questions for Lisa? All right, not hearing any, and we will, oh, sorry. I was getting there. Get there. So at this time, we will take citizen comments on resolution 25-279. If you're online, please send a note to our meeting host.
Someone's calling.
If,
Wanted-
and if there's somebody, nobody here in chambers, doesn't look like we have either. All right, those in favor of approving resolution 25-279, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. We have no ordinances. No emergency ordinances. Introductions of upcoming agenda items. You guys have the spreadsheet in front of you. We've already gone over some of these. The MFTE is the multifamily tax exemption. Kyle's on deck for that for the second. As Lisa mentioned, we've got the 26, 20, that's yeah, the capital facilities workshop coming up. That's 6-year. And then a couple later in September for the facility master plan update and the e-bikes and electric scooters discussion along with co-housing. So September 16th might be a little jammed up. Councilmember Kennedy.
I'm just gonna make a comment on the e-bike and electric scooters. I don't foresee that as a large time frame.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be relatively short.
All right. So is there anything, it goes on to the next page. Obviously, there's a lot of TBDs on there because of the budget. We also have the youth commission where we're waiting till school gets started with that to see how much engagement we can get. So is there anything we may have missed that we want to add as a workshop besides our special meeting for the governance manual? Member Tim.
Just real quick on, and nothing to add, but on September 2nd, I'm wondering if we can reach out to the Building Ohana folks to have them here for that discussion, since they're the ones who came to us with it. I don't know if, we'll have any questions for them, but it would certainly be nice to have them here while we discuss that.
Okay. Somebody who on staff wants to take, Kyle will take that to reach out to them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz.
And then November 4th is election day. I don't know if we're looking at moving that.
Typically, we have
done that.
moved that.
So
We brought that up at the last meeting as well, and the consensus was that we wanted to wait until everybody was here to decide whether to move it. But we can say you.
Well,
that wasn't here, so I didn't.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, same. So a lot of times we've moved it because we have sitting council members up for reelection, 3 that are up or don't have elections, but it's also an important night that other people might want to be attending different functions. So do we want to wait and talk about the next meeting then?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Anything else? All right, not hearing any. We do have another opportunity for citizen comments on anything. So if there's anybody in chambers, I see people packing up, so I'm taking that as a no. Is there anybody else online for any comments? And I know we have no written. Go ahead, Mark.
I just wanted to clarify as we're looking at, and so I'm backing up to the last item that we talked about on the matrix.
Yeah.
Do we want to go ahead and pencil in the off Tuesdays, or do we want to go ahead and send out a poll?
I think if we all just make sure it's penciled in on our calendars.
So do we want to go ahead and just tentatively schedule the every other Tuesday?
September 9th and September 20.
I may go beyond the 16th.
Are
No,
you
you're talking for the budget or for the other one?
For the
The
governance
governance
manual.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I may suggest, what would that be, the 26th? And then the one after the first October meeting?
Should we just make a motion for one now and see how
Yeah.
far we get? and then
Let me get my
do
calendar.
more if
I
needed.
don't
That
know
would
that
be
we
the
need to
9th,
make a,
so about
do
the
we need to
9th.
make a motion on that, Sean, or?
But so everybody look at their calendars for the 9th. If you don't have enough information.
For the 9th of September.
Then it would be the 9th and the 23rd.
Isn't that a song? The 9th of September.
What?
I'm out of town on the 9th.
Okay. Let's get the doodle poll
Okay,
for
Let's
those
do
weeks,
what?
the doodle poll. Just for those 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and then we can look at, let me see, September actually has 5 Tuesdays, so maybe the 30, try one for the 29th or 30th as well. We can always cancel it if we get through it ahead of time. So shoot for those 3 weeks. That help
For the poll.
for the poll. One the week of the 8th, one the week of the 22nd, and one the week of the 29th.
sure. Yes, absolutely. We can do that. It sounded like Councilmember Ball may have a question.
Talking to myself, what?
It'll come to your email.
Yeah.
They'll give you a
We'll
sheet
send
to
it out.
review your
Yeah.
schedule. All right, all right, there's citizen comments. We have no executive session, so without any further business, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.